Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and cyber thinkers. This is LL3's Viewers Podcast. My name is Craig, and transmitting from the northern central state of Utah, which is also known as the Beehive State. And today we'll be doing some few topics, some trending and some questionable and all that, but it'll be you to decide. And today, I just got this. It's August 6th, 2014 to be exact. I do apologize. And just do it again. Today I just got this information that came out actually August 5th of 2014, which was like last night to be exact. And it's in reference to Turn It Off, the NSA's Achilles heel, which is actually designed or motivated by the 10th Amendment Center. And this is really fantastic news, and it's entitled "Winning by a Big Margin, Missouri Voters Say Yes to Privacy." And this is from their capital, Jefferson City. By a big margin at the polls on Tuesday, Missouri voters took an important step to protect their electronic communications and data from the prying eyes of state and local law enforcement, and also effectively blocked a small but intrusive practical effect of federal spying within the state. With a 75% yes vote, Missourians approve Amendment 9, giving electronic and communications the same state constitutional protections as persons, homes, papers, and effects. This eliminates any constitutional ambiguity, I hope I pronounced that right, surrounding electronic data, and specifically bars state agency from accessing it without a warrant in most cases. The new amendment adds to the italicized language to the Section 15 of the Missouri Bill of Rights, as it reads, that the people shall be secure in their persons, papers, homes, and effects, and electronic communications and data, which is, you could say, exactly same thing as effects, synonymous, from unreasonable search and seizures, and no warrant to search any place or seize any person or thing or access electronic data or communication shall issue without describing the place to be searched, or the person or thing to be seized, or the data or communication to be accessed, merely as may be, nor without probable cause, supported by a written oath or affirmation. Unquote. While the state constitutional amendment only binds state agencies, not the federal government, the amendment will protect Missourians from a practical effect of federal spying. By prohibiting state agents from accessing warrantless electronic data, it makes such data gathered by federal agencies and such as the NSA and shared with the state and local enforcement inadmissible in the state criminal proceedings. This will remain in place for Missourians, even if federal courts ultimately put the seal of approval on warrantless data collection by the NSA and other federal agencies. As the NSA and other federal agencies pass illegally gathered information to state and local law enforcement isn't mere speculation. We know for a fact it happens. As revealed in the Reuters report last summer, which there is a link to that, that a formerly secret DEA unit known as the Special Operations Divisions, or SOD for acronym, passes information collected without warrant by the NSA and other agencies of the state and local law enforcement. In most cases, this information has nothing to do with terrorism, but related to everyday criminal cases. Federal agencies also almost certainly give warrantless information to state and local governments via fusion centers. These facilitate the exchange of information between the state, local, and federal agencies and make part of the information sharing environment. SISE, a consortium that includes NSA, FBI, Department of Defense, and many others. Fusion centers contribute to ISE through their role in receiving threat information from the federal government. In other words, they serve as one of the primary means of passing warrantless information along from federal to state and local agencies. The state of Missouri can't stop the federal government from violating the Constitution and basic privacy rights. but the new constitutional amendment does provide a mechanism to keep illegally gathered data out of state courts. Missouri voters sent a strong message Tuesday. They want the state to take action to protect their privacy rights. Americans shouldn't face a forced choice between using modern technologies and protecting their privacy. Passages of Amendment 9 makes it clear that in the same way the government must get a warrant to read people's postal mail, it also must obtain a warrant to read people's emails. It is a fantastic start. I have to agree with it completely. And even in Missouri, you can still have the power to tell the federal government to stick it, 10th Amendment style. And of course, there's a list on here too about how to take action for your other states, joining coalitions. They have a model 4th Amendment Protection Act for your state. You contact your representatives, assembly, state senators, and or both. They give you all the links and a flyer to help spread the word. And I can say this, I use that for the state of Florida. And I know it hasn't really been in the balance or anything like that. However, the new session, it'll be in 2015, we could push for it. So I would recommend all my sisters in the state of Florida to take the initiative in making this happen. So I have to give them lots of homage. In addition, for people in Utah, there is a big event or program, a function is going to happen in reference to the 4th Amendment Protection Act. So, and it's going to happen tomorrow or Thursday, August 7th from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Salt Lake City Public Library, 2010 East 400 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. From the panel of members include Rocky Anderson, former mayor of Salt Lake City, Justice Party 2012 president candidate, Ileana Correa Hernandez, representing Peaceful Uprising, Josh Daniels, Libertas Institute, Shahid Buttar, Bill of Rights Defense Committee, and Mary Duffin. I'll give you the links. You could share this to Facebook if you're in Utah. If you didn't see it yesterday, I recommend you go there tomorrow. I want to try to take the initiative and head down there as well, because it's very exciting. So spread this information out as soon as possible. Everyone should take the initiative. And even if one people for my followers out of the country, you should do the same thing. Study your Constitution and don't be afraid to stand up for the laws of human nature. All of our rights are inalienable, natural born, that is, not by the government or man or woman, don't matter, but a great creator or Mother Nature. That's your decision. So I'm very happy about this. So I'm going to add that footnote in there for this article. And the next I'm going to be doing from the Daily Sheeple, and it's entitled CDC getting dozens of calls about people who are ill after traveling in Africa. That's just from Mike Snyder, Economic Collapse. Real good man to check out. He has a excellent website. So as it reads here, should we be alarmed that the CDC has received several dozen calls from hospitals around the country about people who are ill after traveling in Africa? As you will read about below, a lot more Ebola testing has been going on around the nation than we have been hearing about in the mainstream media. I can understand and the need to keep the people calm, but don't we have the right to know what's really going on? And the media has also been very quiet about the fact that Ebola is now potentially spreading to even more countries. As you will read about below, a Liberian man just died from Ebola in Morocco, and a man traveled to Saudi Arabia from Sierra Leone on Sunday night being tested for Ebola after exhibiting symptoms of viral hemorrhagic fever. Top officials in the U.S. keep assuring us that everything is going to be just fine. But the truth is that This is a crisis that is beginning to spiral out of control. On Tuesday, the CDC told Time magazine that it had received dozens of calls from all over the United States about people that gotten sick after traveling to Africa. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention told Time on Tuesday that it's received several dozen calls from states and hospitals about people who are ill after traveling in Africa. We've triaged those calls, and about half dozen or so resulted in specimens coming to CDC for testing, and all have been negative for Ebola, CDC spokesman Tom Skinner said, adding that the agency is expecting still more calls to come in. I certainly hope that there is nothing to be concerned about in any of those calls. As I pointed out yesterday, there's a link for that. The consequences of having a major Ebola outbreak in the United States could potentially be absolutely catastrophic. Meanwhile, there is a case in Saudi Arabia that has health officials over there extremely concerned. A man that traveled to the country on Sunday night is being tested for the virus after showing symptoms of viral hemorrhagic fever. Saudi Arabia said Tuesday it's testing for a man for the Ebola virus after he showed symptoms of the viral hemorrhagic fever following a recent trip to Sierra Leone. The health ministry said the symptoms appeared in a 40-year-old Saudi man at a hospital in the western city of Jeddah. He is in critical condition and being treated in a unit with advanced isolation and infection control capabilities. Different types of viral hemorrhagic fevers have been found in the kingdom, but no case of Ebola has ever been detected there, according to the ministry. In addition, it is being reported by international media sources that a Liberian has died of the Ebola virus in Morocco. If that is true, it is extremely troubling. That would mean we now have confirmed Ebola cases in 5 different countries. And remember, the Ebola virus can have an incubation period up to 3 weeks. The Ebola victims can look quite fit and healthy, can be walking around until shortly before their deaths. Because of this, hospitals across America are being extremely cautious right now. The following is from a recent NPR report. If you show up at a hospital emergency department with a high fever and you've been traveling in Africa, don't be surprised if you get a lot of attention. Hospitals are on the lookout for people with symptoms such as high fever, vomiting, and diarrhea who had been traveling in parts of West Africa affected by Ebola. Following instructions of the Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And there has been some high-profile cases that have gotten a lot of attention in recent days. The woman who was being tested for Ebola in Ohio got a lot of media attention, but it turns out that she does not have the disease. We are still waiting to hear about a man that was admitted to Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York. Official says he probably does not have Ebola, but the test results have not been released yet. In addition, Paul Joseph Watson has pointed out that CNN's Sanjay Gupta has publicly revealed that there have actually been about a half dozen patients that have been tested for the virus in recent days. During a segment concerning the admission of a potential Ebola victim at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta revealed that there have been at least 6 cases at the hospital, which prompt doctors to test for Ebola, but that the details have not divulged publicly. There have been about a half dozen patients who have had their blood tested because of concern. Those particular patients, their stories were not made public, says Gupta. Adding, I'm not sure if that's because of heightened concern by the hospital or what that means exactly. What else is going on around the nation that we have not heard about? Like I keep saying, let us hope and pray that Ebola does not start spreading here, because it can rapidly become a nightmare. Over in Africa, nearly 900 people have already died, but one doctor told CBS News that a true number is actually significantly higher because of many cases are going unreported. Already, the World Health Organization says 887 people have died, but a top doctor working at the heart of the outbreak in West Africa says many cases are going unreported. The senior doctor who works for a leading medical organization in Liberia explained to CBS News, Deborah Pata, that what has helped set this outbreak apart from previous ones is the virus spread in urban areas. One of the epicenters of the disease is the Liberian capital of Monrovia, home to about 1 million people, or almost a quarter of the country's population. The doctor who spoke to CBS News on condition of confidentiality said the disease is spinning out of control in Africa, partly because it's extremely difficult to contain it in a sprawling and congested city center. And it certainly does not help that affected bodies are being dumped into the streets over in Liberia. If that continues to happen, this epidemic could rapidly turn into a raging inferno over there. There have been health scares in the past, but this one is very different. If you get Ebola, you're probably going to die. And right now, the number of Ebola cases is growing at an exponential rate. If this outbreak is not brought under control soon, we will be facing worse health crises that we have seen in any of our lifetimes. One thing I've been keeping tabs on this, and it could be something like the Black Plague of Europe. And I do recall, like 30 years ago, with the whole AIDS crisis, and people believe there's a lot of fear with that as well. A lot of psyops. But I know with Michael Snyder, he tried to always address this in good faith. He's not trying to be a psyops individual or have people be panicked, but you should always be prepared at the greatest of your capabilities, including managing your health honorably. Not getting all this garbage and GMO and using these pharmaceutical crap, which it doesn't really do a damn thing. Our bodies are temple, and every single one of us needs to take care of it at the best of our capabilities. And I'm going to be doing too. I'm going to be adding a YouTube video by Storm Clouds Gathering, which is entitled Ebola, What You're Not Being Told. It came out like last week, and has the transcripts and all that. So the truth of the matter is not saying this out of fear or addressing this out of fear, but awareness. And hopefully all my brothers and sisters out in Africa and around the world will pay attention to this. And please share this information too as soon as possible, okay? Alright, next thing here came from Liberty Blitzkrieg, which came out today. So did the creator of the experimental Ebola drug joke about culling 25% of the world's population. It's by Michael Krieger. And it says here, Charles Artisan is the Regents Professor and Florence Eli Nelson Presidential Chair of the Biodesign Institute at Arizona State University. Dr. Artisan is known as a pioneer of the development of edible plant-based vaccines. He has also been a collaborator on what appears to be a promising new Ebola drug. Washington Post recently reported that it took nearly 3 decades of tireless research and countless millions of U.S. government dollars to produce a few grams of the experimental Ebola drug that may have saved lives of 2 U.S. missionaries stricken by the virus in West Africa. And now some are asking this question: if the drug did help missionaries Kent Brantley and Nancy Ripple, whose conditions appear to be improving, could the same drug be given to the hundreds of people dying of Ebola in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Nigeria? What would it cost? What are the ethics of distributing a drug that had never been tested on humans in foreign countries, even if medical authorities could persuade people to take it? And how fast could it be done? 2 months, said Charlie J. Artson, a professor at Biodesign Institute at Arizona State University, who has collaborated for the past 15 years with Mott Biopharmaceutical, the small San Diego company that produced experimental serum to give to 2 Americans. Maybe they could do it in a month. If they were already planning on it, I'm sure they could produce 10,000 doses in a month. Anthony S. Fauci, director of NIH's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, was more cautious in an interview on CNN on Tuesday. It is not easy to make this serum, he said. The number of doses that are available right now today is less than a handful. 2 months, or maybe even 1 month. Wow, this certainly seems like a miracle, right? The only problem, this guy is kind of creepy. In fact, he was apparently caught in 2012 joking about culling 25% of the world's population to solve the challenging problem of feeding 8 billion people. While I can't say this for sure, this is Dr. Artson. It sure does look like him. You be the judge. And there's a video on that, alright? And it says here, quite the comedian in Liberty, Michael Krieger. I've seen the video and I really don't find that amazing. Let's just terminate 25% of the population so we can solve not to feed 8 billion people. Give me a break. Some of the students laugh. If I was there, I probably would have smacked the crap out of them with a few teeth out. But watch the video for sure and make your own judgment. But the fact is, like I said before, I stressed it before, learn to maintain your health. And in addition, prepare yourself. If you have to get a surgical mask, do it. And get anything you can, not out of panic or fear, but awareness. So, but I can say this, the guy wasn't really that funny. So, thank you, Mr. Krieger, for the article. All right, next one from endthelie.com, and actually it was a link by actually done by Reuters, Jonathan Ernst. So End the Lie does a lot of good links, and it says it's entitled here, Obama considering immigration reform with executive actions, Congress ready to sue him. U.S. President Barack Obama is reportedly considering options to move on immigration reform via executive action despite protests of disapproving members of Congress. The Obama administration has offered little weight of details as a review of potential options by the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security continues. But according to the Washington Post, the Obama administration is considering temporary relief for law-abiding, undocumented immigrants who are closely related to U.S. citizens or those who live in the country a certain number of years. As many as 5 million migrants could be affected by such a move. The executive actions will constitute Obama's boldest second-term action in the face of congressional gridlock, observers say. Though the Obama administration has deported an unprecedented 400,000 undocumented immigrants per year, the ongoing crisis along the U.S.-Mexico border has become unavoidable, prompting a showdown between the White House and political opponents on Capitol Hill over presidential power. House Republicans suggested that since they don't expect to pass the bill I can sign, that I should go ahead and act on my own to solve the problem. Obama said last week during a news conference regarding U.S. Speaker John Boehner, actually pronounced Boner, refusal to take up immigration reform in the Republican-led House. According to Center for American Progress, Obama's options for executive action on immigration issue fall into two categories. One, enforcement reforms, in which the administration could place a lower priority on deporting undocumented immigrants who don't have a criminal history or have ties to a community in the U.S., or affirmative relief, which could create programs to identify low-priority migrants and offer them relief from deportation, like Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is DACA, program that offers relief to unaccompanied minors who have crossed the border. We're asking the president to really go as broad as he can go. Christina Jimenez, the co-founder and managing director of the pro-reform group United We Dream, told Business Insider. He has a chance to make the boldest move he possibly could. It depends on how he wants to be remembered. The border crisis has intensified in recent months. For instance, more than 52,000 unaccompanied minors from South and Central America have crossed the Mexican border into the U.S. seeking refuge from poverty and violence from their home nations. The influx of children crossing the border from the likes of Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador have prompted Obama to consider expanding DACA, a 2012 relief program that has delayed deportations of more than 550,000 younger immigrants, or to offer minors refugee status, as the U.S. has done in the past humanitarian crisis. Obama has asserted that the uproar over executive action coming from Republicans is curious given the common use of presidential power in the past. The broader point is that if, in fact, House Republicans are concerned about me acting independently of Congress, despite the fact that I've taken fewer executive actions than my Republican predecessor or my Democratic predecessor before that, or the Republican predecessor before that, then the easiest way to solve is passing legislation, get things done, Obama said last week. Well, I gotta say this, my friends. President Obama's this one quote I just read is not accurate. I recommend you look at his executive orders and go through the past predecessors. There's a big difference. And I'm not crazy about George W. Bush or Bill Clinton either, because they have the same attributes. Tyrannical. Executive action is already the source of legal wrangling between the president and Republicans in Congress. Last month, the House authorized Speaker Boehner to sue Obama over his handling of the Affordable Care Act. Boehner and other Republicans allege that Obama has flouted his constitutional authority by unilaterally extending deadlines in the law, particularly those related to the employer and mandate penalties. I just say this, you have to scrap ACA, because what really got the healthcare crisis going was the HMO Act of 1973, which was signed by Richard Nixon. Tricky Dicky, correct? As I proceed, resource allocation is the main legal hurdle the administration would need to consider if it chooses executive actions. The Empowerment Control Act requires the executive branch to only spend the money appropriate by Congress to a purpose outlined by the legislative branch. The situation requires faithful execution of appropriation laws. David Martin, a professor at the University of Virginia School of Law and immigration law specialist, told Business Insider, if they drop far below that, then there will be real legal issues. The whole thing is, you got presidents like to use that Article 2, Section 3, what seems fit for them, even though it may be pretty vague. However, like I said in my past episodes, I'm seeing this try to make it a North American Union, which, of course, George W. Bush, President Vicente Fox, and former Canadian Prime Minister Paul Martin signed in 2005 at Waco. And according to judicialwatch.org, they had information that saying legal immigration is part of the North American Union plan, which is sponsored by our friends from the Club of Rome, which is part of what? The New World Order. And they say, I like when they say sue him. They're being too light. See, right there, their version of vigilance is like going to a Walmart. Talk cheap. You don't do that. You impeach. As far as I'm concerned, you want to really get the ball rolling, you do impeachment process on President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, and, of course, House Speaker John Boehner. Then you got the tic-tac-toe method. And, of course, you got the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution as well. So, to me, it's just a lot of talk. Sue them, please. Just get rid of these quacks. But it's based on their merits. Nothing more, nothing less. Alright, next here came from the Hurry Yet Daily News. Came out today, August 6th. And it's an opinion by Samin Adiz. And it's entitled, Israel and Hamas have both lost. And as it reads here, the Egyptian broker ceasefire in Gaza may or may not hold, but this is an opportunity to assess who won as a result of this carnage. Militarily speaking, it is already clear that there have been no winners, according to BCC's defense correspondent, Jonathan Marcus. Given the sad predictability involved with the view only confirms that what many said at the start of the Israeli operation, but is there a political winner? It is also clear that both Israel and Hamas have lost in this respect. As usual, the West did its best to bend over backwards and allow Israel the leeway it needed against Hamas, despite the large number of women and children killed. But the Israeli slaughter of the innocents finally forced even the U.S., Israel's staunchest supporter, into moral outrage. Washington cannot hold back in the end and refer to the deadly Israeli shelling a UN school in Gaza, which was sheltering 3,000 displaced Palestinians, as appalling and disgraceful. This had a 5-megaton psychological effect on Israelis, showing them there is a limit beyond which they cannot push without serious commendation from even those who support that they need. Worse than this, however, Israelis' actions, more than ever before, were likened across the world to those of Nazi Germany. This is unjustified, of course, but few will be bothered about factual distinctions. What they see Palestinian children killed with the same moral indifference among Israelis that Jewish children were killed under the Nazis. Inhuman remarks about Palestinians uttered by some Israeli politicians, on the other hand, merely added grist to the mill. Israelis and Jews across the world supported this operation overwhelmingly, but there must be some who feel it is tragic to see the Jewish state be equated with Nazi Germany. There must be some concern with such analogies carry the germ of revisionism, in which may over time diminish the sense of historic horror over what befell the Jews in the past. When it comes to Hamas, for all sympathy it enjoys among radical Muslims as well as Islamist governments like the one in Turkey, it too is a political loser in this crisis. It has ended up once again providing nothing but death and destruction to Palestinians and gaining little, if anything, in return. Worst of all, Hamas in this conflict reveal just how isolated it is among Arab regimes. The simple fact there is no sympathy for this group in Cairo, Amman, Readies, or any other capital in the Middle East that matters because of its radical Islamist outlook. There must therefore be some in Gaza who regret having ever voted for it and who are wondering how much longer they can carry the burden that has placed on them. There must be Palestinians who realize this group promises nothing unless it moves to a more reasonable track. The main problem in this conflict remains injustices against the Palestinians in general and the siege of Gaza in particular. Hamas has failed thus far to have the siege lifted by military means. There is only the political track left, and this can only be pursued under the Palestinian Authority, which the world accepts as interlocutor, while Hamas takes a back seat. Meanwhile, Israelis have realized they will never have peace until they meet the demands of the Palestinians, which the international community considers to be just. The prevailing right-wing mindset which has taken over Israel will reject this, of course. But what is the alternative? Horrible as it was to hear, we have seen some right-wing Israelis suggested what amounts to a kind of financial solution to the Palestinian problem. That, however, is impossible. There is only one reasonable way out, and Israelis have to realize this. Otherwise, it will be more of the same down the line, with little having been achieved, other than more bloodshed in the end. Amen. I have to say that on Samina D's viewpoint. Really amazing. You got a lot of folks in there that were like actually related, because a lot of them are cousins. They're being used as pawns in some battle of political power. There's even claimed that Hamas was created by Mossad. I want to try to get a footnote on that, and you can make that own decision. If not, look it up. Just go Hamas created by Mossad. And it has to stop. And I know Prime Minister Rabin wanted to stop, and he got taken out, assassinated roughly 2-3 months later. And I know for sure, when I read some of the past articles about the West Bank, when Ariel Sharon evicted a lot of the Israelis, settlers, and even the Palestinian people were like wigging out because that area in the West Bank, they were creating relationships amongst each other. Israeli business people gave them jobs, have them get paid well, invite their families to dinners. And of course, they're going to have those few little chicken hawks think they're smarter than everybody else. As far as I'm concerned, we should all throw these bastards like them, that mindset, into a pit. Let them kill each other, and we can videotape that and put that on the TV screen for the whole world can see. You got to give them the Ceausescu treatment, which that dictator from Romania did. The people figured it out. They went to his mansion, got him and his wife arrested for treason, put him on national TV, found him guilty, then put him in a firing squad at the wall of their backyard. That's how I look at this. Throw the chicken hawks in there and see how they really feel. But I gotta give this writer a lot of credit for it, and we'll post that for sure. All right, next one here came from shtfplan.com, and it's by Paul Joseph Watson. He does stuff from InfoWars, and regardless of what you think of him, I know people have some big criticism. Always observe responsibly. And this is entitled here, The Cop Said, If Obama doesn't follow the Constitution, we don't have to. And it says here, a shotgun video shows a New Jersey cop responding to a complaint about corruption by asserting that law enforcement officers no longer need to follow the Constitution because it already has been decimated by President Obama. I don't know where the hell he's been. Seeking to file a complaint about the Helmeta Regional Animal Shelter, which is in New Jersey, Helmeta, New Jersey, okay? Just to give you guys a heads up. Steve Ronco visited the Helmeta Police Department to air his grievances about the shelter, falling prey to nepotism and corruption as a result of Helmeta Mayor Nancy Martin appointing her son, Brandon Metz, to head up the facility. I made objections about what's going on in the shelter over there, Ronco tells a police officer, adding, my First and Fourth Amendment rights were violated, my civil rights were violated. Obama just decimated the freaking Constitution, so I don't give a damn if he doesn't follow the Constitution. We don't have to, responds the cops, blatantly violating the oath he swore to uphold his Constitution. The comment is self-evidently shocking, but also provides an insight as to how corruption from the very top reaches all the way down to the bottom, providing law enforcement with a twisted form of justification for their unconstitutional activities. At the end of the video, the police officers arrive to kick Ronco out of the building with the cop who doesn't give a damn about the constitutional rights. Either you get out, or we're gonna get locked up. That shows that cop's manhood. Doesn't have anything. I'm just wondering how his kids look up to him if he's a father. Maybe this incident captured on film for the whole world to see will serve as a wake-up call to those who may be asleep, writes Matt Argyris. Please share this so that it can help others to help the Leviathan for what it is, a gang of thieves writ large. The only question that remains, as a police officer feel they no longer need to follow the Constitution, should Americans be expected to obey the law? That's a good one from Paul Joseph Watson. There's a video on that too. And as far as I'm concerned, for this piece of garbage from Helmeta, New Jersey, this pig, which that's what I call him, because he's not a peace officer, not an honorable man, but a stooge that has an attribute of Mao Tse-tung and Benito Mussolini combined. And if you send this podcast to him, if he gets offended, good. My heart bleeds. Because here's the thing, my friends. So if they say Obama can't don't decimate the Constitution and the police don't have to, can you explain why in the state of New Jersey they have their own Constitution? In Article 1 entitled Rights and Privileges, and Section 1 reads, all persons are by nature free and independent, have certain natural and unalienable rights, among which those of enjoying and defending life and liberty, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and of pursuing and obtaining safety and happiness. And for the people in that town of Helmetta, it says here, 2A, 8A, a political power is inherited in the people. Government is instituted for the protection, security, and benefit of the people, and they have the right at all times to alter or reform the same whenever the public good may require it. Alright, so I could say this about that. If you have to use force to overthrow these parasites, it can be done. It happened in Athens, Tennessee, August 1st and 2nd of 1946. The sheriff and the mayor tried to play the game of corruption by vote fraud. It blew back in their faces. And you know what the state of Tennessee said? Justifiable. And I'll go a little further about the Fourth Amendment, correct? And it says here, the right of the people shall to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue except upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the papers and things to be seized. Okay, that's Article 1, Section 7. And go a little further down here. I'm just going to use treason. I like that. That's Section 17. Treason against the state shall consist only in levying a war against it or an inheritance to its enemies give them aid and comfort. Well, the police officer is given the mayor aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act or a confession in open court. And look at Section 18. The people have the right freely to assemble together, to consult for the common good, to make known their opinions to their representatives, and to petition for redress of grievance. Well, that dumbed down cop, yes man, didn't accept that. And we'll just go to the final here, Section 21 of this particular article. This enumeration of rights and privileges shall not be construed to impair or deny others retained by the people. Was it equal to the 9th Amendment? So you know what? You can use that excuse about President Obama decimating the Constitution and Helmetta, I think it's called, that stupid town. Yeah, Helmetta's finest can disobey the U.S. Constitution. Okay, chump. How about the state Constitution? That is just as effective. Alright. But you see the video, you can judge for yourself. And you could email them too, this too as well. Alright. You know what? I'm going to hit this final one here. And this is by Off the Grid News. And this is pretty cool. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Boom. And it came out today. It's written by Susan Patterson from Natural Health. It's entitled Cat's Ears, Backyard Weed with Super-Antioxidant Properties. Cat's Ears, or Hypocaris radicata, hopefully I pronounced that right, is often used with a dedalian so much so that it is referred to a false dedalian. This lookalike plant has similar structure, grows in a similar habitat, drives homeowners nuts when it pops up, and then with a manicured lawn spits a white milky sap when snapped, and has a similar nutritional profile to dedalian. Flowers are high in lutein and total carotenoids, and the leaf extract has high levels of antioxidants. To confuse the matter more, in some places in Europe's cat ears and Daedalian have names that, when translated into English, mean Daedalian. However, as much as these two plants are alike, there are subtle differences that one can spot once they get a good wild plant identification. Only identifying characteristics of cat's ears is its leaves. They are sharply toothed and asymmetrical than leaves of the Daedalian. I'm sorry, I'm like a tongue-tied here. Forgive me, my friends. They also have hairs on the top and the bottom, whereas the Daedalians do not any hair at all. The Daedalians have one flower atop a hollow stalk, while cat's ears produce many flowers on one non-hollowed stalk. Low growing habit. Cat ears that make their home in lawns have adopted over the years to a growing habit that is close to the ground to prevent it from being cut by a lawnmower blade. The leaves and stalk are below grass cutting level, and they also compress the growth of competing plants nearby. This makes harvesting this plant a bit difficult. There is an upright habit. There is an upright version of cat ears as well, and this plant is much easier to harvest. This form of the plant exists in areas where it frees to grow and where mowing does not occur. In fact, if you leave an area of the yard not mowed, it is likely that the upright version will begin to grow. Growing season. The growing season of cat ears follow that of the Daedalians about a month, and by mid-May to June, the plant hits a high growth period, and leaves expand and stalks appears. In order to thrive, the plant needs full sun and moist conditions. Flowers may appear from May through November and grow through 3 stages of development, from small to large and full. In contrast, the Daedalian flower is always large and full. Looking really closely, if you look at the Daedalian cat ear side by side, you may notice that the bracts on each plant are different. On a Daedalian, there are 2 sets of bracts. One faces upwards and downwards on the cat's ear plant, and the bracts all face upwards and overlap like a shingle on a roof. And they have a video below about the cat ears and the plant. Pretty interesting, like 3 minutes 10 seconds. Hopefully you can watch that too. And we go below here. The puffball produced by cat ears plants is similar to the Daedalian, apart from the fact that it is a bit smaller and less well organized. Some have compared to the Daedalian puffball having a bad hair day. Harvesting tips. The best plant to harvest will be in places where there's plenty of moisture and sunshine. Leaves like the leaves of the Daedalians are best when they are healthy. Be careful of where you harvest. If in a lawn, you will want the lawn to be clear of pesticides and chemical fertilizer. Upright forms of the plant are also much easier to harvest than flattened types. When you harvest the leaves, it is best to use a pair of clean and sharp scissors. Be careful of staining saps where it will close as you gather the leaves, and keep the cuts ends pointed downward and place them toward the corner of the bag. Be sure your plants are hydrated. Get them a cup of water as soon as possible. If you want to use fresh greens, you can chop them from the stems and dip them in cold water immediately. The water will wash sap away and refresh the leaves. Place them in a salad spinner to dry. Budstalks. Budstalks are an excellent food source and are easier to gather. The upper 4 inches are so generally the most tender and tastiest. Harvest as you would the leaves. Cutting with sharp scissors and placing them in a bag cuts ends down. Eating cat ears. The leaves and roots of cat ears are less bitter than the dahlias, but can be enjoyed in the same manner as the dahlias by mixing in fresh salad, steaming, sauteing, or boiling. It is best to eat them before the flowers appear, as after this they become kind of stringy and tough. Most of the plant's bitterness is removed by cooking. The broth left from steaming is also great for soup stock. Roots are generally smaller than the dahlia, but if you find larger ones, they can be steamed and eaten. Flowers can be used in salads and sandwiches or thrown in stews, soups, or egg dishes. Stems are tasty sautéed like asparagus and toppled with your favorite sauce. How do you use or eat cat ears? Tell us in comments in sections below. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, man. It's like I gotta say, I always enjoy reading their articles. I should examine them more often. They have a real good weekly radio show too. So, like I said, my friends, Mother Nature is a lot more complex than what we think, and we should always respect it to the fullest. I always tell everybody, like, if you're going to build homes, conform with the land, not destroy, rather than destroying it, because it can backfire on you when you least expect it. So, because I notice areas and mountains, hills in Utah, they're trying to like shave everything and build homes. And what's going to happen one day, God forbid, or nature forbid, mudslides can happen, landslides. So that's all I got to say. It's real good stuff. And that's it. And I do thank you for listening. And you could hit me with your comments, criticisms, love, hate mails on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and I got so many on my brain. I'm just gonna give you those for the time being. Hit the Spreaker page for more information on my sites. So if you get me on that, I'll be a lot better off too. So yeah, that's all for now. And I'm gonna try to hit those extra goodies on there as soon as possible. And like I said, once again, thank you for listening. And as always, my traditional statement before the show ends. Demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate societies. Till next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.